So, ladies and gentlemen, we actually got some pretty horrible news on Monday on the trial of Cecily McMillan. If you aren't familiar with Cecily, we've talked about her on the show before, but Cecily is a 25-year-old Occupy Wall Street activist. She's a graduate student. Again, we've discussed her some on the show before. The arrest actually stems from an incident in 2012 on the night of the 6-month anniversary of the formation of Occupy Wall Street, a night that witnessed a great deal of police violence against protesters from the New York Police Department. Some 70 protesters were arrested on that day. At this protest, what happened is Cecily was grabbed on her breast from behind from a police officer. So it was such a hard grab that actually left this palm-sized bruise that's on it. That's documented in photos. So she was grabbed behind, on the breast from behind, and she reacted instinctively. She threw her elbow up behind her and hit her assailant in the face. She didn't know at the time when she was being assaulted, but the person who violently grabbed her breast was a New York police officer. So after that, she was beaten, her rib was broken, she had a seizure on the ground, which the NYPD ignored for some time. They refused to call for medical attention. And so she was eventually arrested, and by all accounts I've heard, the trial that happened was a complete sham of a trial, with the defense being barred from discussing the rampant police violence against activists that happened not only that night, and there was plenty that happened that night, but also in the days and weeks that led up to that night. Again, if you want to see, what violence I'm talking about, just go on Twitter and look at the MyNYPD hashtag. A great deal of those are from Occupy Wall Street protests in New York. The officer who grabbed her breast actually has a history of violence. That was actually deemed inadmissible by the judge. Even though this officer sexually assaulted this young woman, grabbing her breast, he's not going to prison. She is going to prison. She is. She was found guilty on Monday and now faces up to 7 years in jail. I don't really know a whole lot to say here. I'm angry. It's a travesty. What this verdict shows, which is something that we probably know already in this country. It's something we should know. It's not something that's new. But what this verdict plainly shows is that police officers can do anything. They can do anything to you. Anything they want at all, essentially. We've already seen that they can pepper spray you. They've seen we can beat you. They can grab your breast. They can grab your breast. They can beat you. And for that, you can go to jail for instinctively defending yourself. You get sexually assaulted by the police, you might go to jail. Many folks tweeted out correctly after this verdict that this is another gigantic example of rape culture, and it clearly is. It's also something that's very clearly an example of what we allow the police to do, how comfortable we are with police violence, and the acceptance of violence by the police against the citizens. And we've talked about police violence a lot on the show, especially from the NYPD when it comes to not only their treatment of protesters, but with things like stop and frisk and spying on Muslims, and their consistently abusive treatment of people in communities of color in New York. But again, this is a case of not only justice being denied, because she was assaulted by this cop. Not only was justice denied here, it was perversely flipped. The victim is not only being denied justice, the victim here is going to jail. And again, another aspect of this that's so frightening and infuriating is, again, this is something that is clearly done to stifle speech. And all of these arrests that happen at Occupy, it's all about stifling speech. It's all about stifling dissent. We covered these arrests when they were happening at all these Occupies across the country. I was at both of the Occupy Boston convictions when people got arrested there. What this jury verdict says is that if you are someone who chooses to go to a protest, not only can you be pepper sprayed, not only can you be arrested, you can be sexually assaulted by a police officer. And again, he won't go to jail. You might go to jail. It's sick. It's sick. Ironically, Attorney General Eric Holder, just this week, in a beautifully ironic sense of timing here, actually released a video defending their way they handle Wall Street prosecutions. He actually said in the video that no bank is too big to jail. He actually said that, years and years after the Wall Street crisis, which is so hysterical. Because again, if that were true, if Eric Holder and his Justice Department had done its job prior to and following the economic crash, if they had actually prosecuted the real criminals in this country, these Wall Street bankers who destroyed the economy, who robbed people of their homes, who robbed people of their pensions, who cost people their very lives. If he would have done his job, Occupy Wall Street probably would never have happened in the first place. Our justice system here in the U.S. is so unbelievably broken. We'll be right back.